Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. This is the second time that I have recorded this video. The first time, my computer, my sound recording software, hadn't picked up that I plugged in my microphone, so I sounded like I was speaking to you from the Ocean Gate submarine, which was not great. So, welcome to the second attempt of making this video, and what I wanted to talk about today was the Warlord Games Open Day, which we had here in the UK, Nottingham, yesterday, Saturday, the 21st of September. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it this year. I did last year, but I couldn't make it this year. I haven't seen quite so many videos about it this year. I have watched one from the Ministry of Miniatures, which is a fantastic YouTube channel. I would highly recommend that you go and check that out after you finish watching this video. He's a smaller channel, so absolutely give him a sub and let him know that I sent you, because his stuff is really, really good. I also saw that Martin from Seventh Son was there, so I will be catching up with his impressions of it, I'm sure, on Monday night on the Plastic Crack podcast. So there are going to be some ideas out there, but looking at the Ministry of Miniatures video, there are two things I wanted to discuss today. And one of them is positive, one of them is negative. So I'm going to start with the negative one. But I have to say there is a big caveat here, which hopefully will mean that for the next 5 minutes, what I'm talking about is going to be complete rubbish. Basically, as I say, I wasn't there. On the Ministry of Miniatures video, he videos the questions and answer session with John Stollard. Those of you who don't know, he is the owner and founder of Warlord Games, and he's joined by Rick Priestley, who wrote most of the rules, including Black Powder and Hail Caesar. Now, there is a part, the vast majority of the questions and answers is talking about bolt action, and that's understandable. That, bolt action is the most popular of Warlord Games' games, as much as I would prefer it to be Black Powder. I don't think that we can. I don't think we can say that is more popular than bolt action. So a lot of it's talking about bolt action, and of course it was the release weekend of the new 3rd edition for bolt action as well, which is another reason I was annoyed I couldn't go, because I could have picked up my copy then. But oh well, never mind. So there is a point in the interview where the camera cuts as an edit, and when they come back, they're halfway through answering a question. Now, I suspect that it was a question about upcoming supplements for non-bolt action books, because when it cuts back to the footage, I'm not going to play the footage here. You go over to the Ministry of Miniatures YouTube page. I don't know the guy, but pop over there. It's a good channel. And so when he picks up the video again, they are halfway through talking about some supplements that are to come, and John Stollard jokes that they're all coming in the next 7 months, because that's all he can remember that far ahead. Now, he talks about a lot of books, I have to say, and I am suspicious that they will all be coming out in the next 7 months. I hope they do. Do not get me wrong. I would be ecstatic if they all came out in the next 7 months. But I am going to reserve my judgment for whether I think that is likely or not. So what they're talking about is they start off talking about some Hail Caesar stuff. So where Rick Priestley mentions a 100 Years War book, they mention a samurai book, which I would imagine would be more pike and shot than Hail Caesar. I've looked into the samurai myself, and I think they'd fit pike and shot far better. And he talks about an Age of Arthur book as well. Luckily, they didn't rush that one out to coincide with the TV series, because that's just been cancelled, and quite right, because I never saw it. They are my favourite Bernard Cornwell books, the Warlord trilogy. And having seen the casting decisions, I was out straight away. But it's just been cancelled, so clearly I wasn't the only one. But yeah, they mentioned an Age of Arthur one, and I think that's pretty much it. I can't really think that there's much more for them to do for Ancients. Have they done a? They've not done a specific Alexander one yet, I suppose. Have they? Anyway, that's by the by. But they did also mention some Black Powder books as well. Now, this is going to slightly bleed into the second point I want to make, so just bear this in mind, that they announced a Boer War supplement. Apparently, there was some suggestion whether it was going to be Black Powder or Bolt Action. I'm not sure how serious that was. I mean, I mentioned before, I wouldn't even have 1914 in Bolt Action. for me, black powder would be the better set of rules for that. But anyway, so they're doing the Boer War. There's also talk of a Crimean War supplement as well, which is interesting because they do Crimean War infantry and British cavalry, but that's and British, Russian artillery as well. But I think that's basically it at the moment. I don't think they do any more than that. So that's that's when they were talking about black powder, and there was nothing Napoleonic mentioned there. However, that may have been sort of the first part of the question. So they may have answered that before the ministry was able to get his camera back up and running. I believe he smashed the lens, which is the big rip. So go and give him a thumbs up on his video. Now there is another part to his video, and this is where the more positive vibes come in, and that is he shows the cabinets that they've got in the studio. So it's things like the epic Hail Caesar, that's up there. And the American Civil War range, which kind of just came and went without really bothering anyone, really. It's quite an unusual one. The models look quite nice, though. I remember seeing them last year at the Open Day. A lot of World War II winter stuff, because that's the new Battle of the Bulge box set, so that's all well and good. Some Conflict 47, is it, I think? Or Conflict 48 or something? Some of that stuff, I don't know anything about that. But he also showed a shelf of black powder related goodies. Now, it was majoritively Boer War. Now, with them saying that they're doing the Boer War, that was not unsurprising to me. Unsurprising? Yes, that would be right. So fair enough. That looks good. And to be honest, the models looked very nice, actually. They were very impressive. Are they as good as the Perrys and the Empress? Yeah, probably not. But, they are what they are. So, fair enough. Now, next to them, they had a bunch of Russians in greatcoats. He starts at the 3 minutes and 52 seconds time on the video. That's when he starts panning across the black powder shelf. Now, he does it pretty quickly, to be fair. So there are the Dutch-Belgian Dragoons that you can see, and some infantry. I think they've already been announced. And then he pans across, and you can see some Russians in greatcoats. Now, I've rechecked it, because the first time I saw it, I thought, oh, that's the Napoleonic Russians in greatcoats in the Pocolem. But with them talking about the Crimean War supplement, I thought, are these in fact Crimean War Russians? Famously, they wore those like woolly hat things and their greatcoats. But although theirs greatcoats were slightly different, they tended to be turned back with almost like jackboots on. But so I've gone back to recheck, and there is a card in front of them, which, if I can work my old man eyes, says... Now, I have screenshotted this, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't go and see his video. But it says, Napoleonic Russian Fusiliers, Greatcoat and Forage Cap 1815. So, I'm like, certainly looking at their uniforms, if you look to the unit to their left, they are wearing Kiowa as well, which is obviously not a Crimean War thing. The command group at the front, they are new models to me as well. So that is looking positive for a 1813 book, because famously the Russians wore their greatcoats at the Battle of Dresden. So obviously they wore them in 1812 for campaigning and stuff, but they didn't wear them in battle, like pitched battles, in 1812. They did wear them in 1813, however. Famously, they wore them at the Battle of Dresden. In the same way as you associate the Old Guard with greatcoats with Waterloo, Russians in greatcoats, that to me says Dresden. So that is a potential hint that they are ready to come alongside a book. Now, it is worth pointing out that Warlord Games don't always bring books out to accompany their models. For instance, the Crimean War Russians have been out for absolute yonks, and they're plastic. So there was a much larger investment in them than there was in some metal greatcoat Russians. But looking further to the right of the cabinet, there are some Frenchies. Now, these make me stroke my now non-existent beard with much anticipation, because not only are there Frenchies, there are two different flavours of Frenchie. Now, what is not to love than two different flavours of Frenchmen? Now, the reason I am excited about this is because they are listed as being for late war, so 1812 to 1815, or 1812 to 1814, some of them are. So again, this could be very useful for indicating that a book is on its way. If nothing else, they've at least got the models to photograph for the book. So that could be something that's coming forth there. But, and it is a large Jennifer Lopez sized but. Behind them is something that makes me even more excited. Is it possible for me to be more excited than a 1813 Frenchman? Oui, monsieur, yes it is, because behind them are some 1800 to 1805 Frenchmen. Oh yes, some guys in the bicorns, some grenadiers in a red-plumed bicorn. It looks like one may even have a bearskin on. They've also got command groups in the 1812 green coats of Napoleon with all the little yellow diamonds that I never paint. And next to them, they have some early to mid-war French command group in the blue still. But there are a whole bunch of guys in their bicorns. Now, these are super exciting to me. I cannot tell you how excited I am, because I am hoping, perhaps getting my hopes up a little bit too high, but I am hoping that this means that we are about to see an Austerlitz book. Now, that would be something to... well, okay, here's me speaking now directly to John Stollard and Rick Priestley and everyone else. Look, guys, we've been in the wilderness for the last few years. Clash of Eagles, phenomenal book. Really, really great book. Cannot criticize it in most ways. There's the odd thing that's wrong with it, but by and large, great book, great product. But we've been in the wilderness since then. We've not had much. We've had some Black Seas, we've had some blowy boats. Now, I quite like Black Seas, but it doesn't really seem to have taken off. But we've had some Black Seas. If you were to bring out both 1813 and 1805/6 to 8 this year, like 2025, then all would be forgiven. I would be singing your praises from the rooftops. I will shill for you if you release these two books this year. Now, let's see if they do. As I say, John Stollard said that he could only recall the books that were coming out in the next 7 months. So if that's the case, if he's being serious about that, that takes us to April next year. So there is still the possibility that we could get the 1813 book. If someone was there, please let me know if it was brought up. I brought it up last year, and, well, as you saw, it was not good news. So, yeah, it could be that, and then it could be towards the end of the year, we could have a cheeky 1805 book as well. Not only could it be 1805, they specifically say 1800 to 1808 or 1806. So we could also be getting things like Marengo, and then a book that covers Jena, Friedland. Oh, just yes, all the yes. Now it does mean that that it doesn't look like there's going to be an 1809 book anytime soon. You know what? Okay, that's fine. I would love to see an 1809 book, but bring out an Austerlitz book instead, and I don't really care, to be honest. I am all in on the 1805. In fact, I have 2 or 3 boxes of Victrix in the cellar at the moment, waiting for their day in the sun. Although that may be sometime, as they are near the bottom of my pile of shame at the moment. Now, I know we've had a few videos that are a bit like this, a bit sort of like, oh, why haven't we got a supplement yet? Oh, what's the next one going to be? I know we've had videos like this before, but this one, I want it to be a positive video. I want it to be, we can look into the cabinets due to the Ministry of Miniatures. Thank you very much. And we can see that Napoleon and the Age of Eagles has not been completely forgotten about. The Warlord games are still producing figures for it, and hopefully it means that we'll be getting some books at some point as well. So, keeping the enthusiasm and positive bandwagon going, I would also like to proudly announce that we have released the Under Eagles to Glory 2 event pack today. It is currently in the files section of Warlord Black Powder Napoleonic, which is a group on Facebook. It is a private group, but if you apply to join, then I'm sure myself or one of the other admins will let you in if you answer the questions. I think there's questions. So the file's up there. I'm also looking for putting it in a Dropbox And if you want to email me, drop me a message letting me know that you've emailed me. And if you send an email to the Napoleonic Wargamer at gmail.com, then I'll get back to you. The pack is not much different to the last one. The last one worked very well. Obviously, I've changed the date on the cover. The date is the 1st and 2nd of March 2025. So you have 6 months to get ready for it. There is no excuse not to have a fully painted army this time. Although if you do turn up with an unpainted army, then that's allowed as well. But there is no excuse. You got 6 months. You got loads of time. Even I might bring a new army to this one. It's a really good way of forcing yourself to get something done. I say this as someone who spent the last month painting up a fiefdom's army for the Lord of the Rings. So I had the figures, and I was like, you know what? This is a really good excuse for me to actually bother my arse and get them done. So, yep, that's perfect. You've got 6 months and 1 week, in fact. I'm generous to you guys to get your stuff ready. It is once again at Boards and Swords in Derby. So Ian there, a huge proponent of Napoleonic Wargaming, and yeah, I wouldn't want to go anywhere else. We have made the tables slightly wider this time. They're going to be 8 foot by 4 foot. Unfortunately, the depth of the table is not really something that we can change. If you went last year or you've been to Boards and Swords, you can see the setup doesn't really allow for it. 6 foot by 4 foot tables are perfect for playing Black Powder if you reduce the size of the units and the measurements, which is where an event that is going to be taking place next September. Now, this is over a year away, but I'm announcing it now. Don't worry, I'll be reminding everyone closer to the time. But the last weekend of September, I believe it's the 28th and 29th of September 2025, we will be running a similar event to Under Eagles to Glory, but this one is going to be for epic scale. Now, it's not just going to be, well, it's going to be divided. Where Eagles to Glory is you are competing for yourself, although competing is not the right word, but you are playing for yourself. The epic one will be under allies and non-allies. So there'll be 2 teams for that one. So it's going to be slightly different to Under Eagles to Glory. It's going to allow models from 15mm down to 10mm. So it's going to be a slightly different feel. The idea of Under Eagles to Glory, the 28mm version, is I want that to be a premier event. I want it to be, look as good as Napoleonics can do. I want it to be a real keynote area of the calendar. But, we'll see how it goes in the long run. So check it out. I'm not sure if the tickets are on sale yet, but they certainly will be in the week. I have communicated with Ian, and he said that they were going to get them up. As I say, it's on the 1st and 2nd of March, so there's plenty of time. But you don't want to miss out on tickets. There's just plenty of time to get your armies ready. That's the secret to it. That's going to be it for today. It's only going to be a short one, I'm afraid. I wanted to respond to the Warlord Open Day and look at the negatives. The negative is, as far as I am aware, there's still no announcements for books. However, I wanted to point out the fact that there could be massive positives ahead. And I, for one, came out of watching the Ministry of Miniatures video a lot more excited, a lot more positive for the future of Black Powder than I did last year's Open Day, I have to say. Although last year's Open Day, they did have a very nice American Civil War game. And their American Civil War figures are quite nice, actually, 28mm ones. But anyway, yes, no, I am quite optimistic going forward this time. So I'm hoping that I've just missed the bit where they announced the 1813 book. If you were there and they did mention it, please let me know. If they didn't mention it, please let me know as well. But I'm hoping that in the not too distant future, we get some early and mid-war stuff coming out. An Austerlitz book, I would be absolutely all over. Well, thank you very much for listening. I will catch you guys on Wednesday. It's the live streams. We are rapidly approaching the end of British summertime. So make sure you catch the live streams while you still can. 6 o'clock-ish. Don't worry if there's no sight or sound of it by like 1 minute to 6. It's usually around about 6 o'clock, maybe 2 or 3 minutes afterwards that we start live streaming. So I hope to see you guys then. And I hope that you're as positive as I am looking forward, that Warlord haven't forgotten about the Napoleonic period. And I hope that they really bring it back in the way that it deserves to be. Let's hope they do the bolt action for World War II. Let's hope they give Napoleonics that treatment as well. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.